So welcome to today's show of Productive Agent podcast. My name is Rob Aubrey. I am your host. Productive Agent podcast is sponsored and powered by Aubrey Home Loans. And so today we have a very special guest, a friend of mine. We're just chatting in what we call the green room. And we've known each other like 20 years. And, I didn't realize that. I'm like, how long have we known each other? And we mapped it out. And we're like, holy crap, And so, so anyway, welcome to the show, Waleska Iglesias. So I've actually known her whole real estate career. I didn't realize that. But anyway, welcome to the show, Waleska.
Thank you, Rob. Nice for you to have me.
Yeah. So today we're going to be talking about multifamily investing. That's kind of the where we're at on the show. But tell me first about how you got into investing. I mean, you started out years ago. I mean, obviously you didn't wake up one day and say, hey, I'm buying multifamily. I'm going to buy an apartment complex, I mean, that's not how that worked, right?
Yeah. So basically I started back, it was 2004. So started back at Keller Williams doing, like everyone, your traditional real estate,
right?
Buying, selling, helping people buy and sell. And I did that for a couple of years. And then the recession hits, the crash,
right?
2006. And so, I just had to pivot. So I pivoted to short sales because really that's all there was at that time.
Right.
So I did short sales in Salt Lake and in Denver. So I would fly back and forth and do short sales, process them. Then I would sell them to investors, that had cash to buy them. And so that just naturally took me to the investment side of real estate.
Right.
So I want to say that was 2006, 2007.
No, the recession, the real estate crash started, I remember September of 2007, because I always remembered, like, you were like standing around, you're like, something happened. I don't know what happened, but we went from like 1,500 closings in August to like 900 in September. That's like, whoa, what happened? So anyway.
So at that point, right, everybody had to pivot. You either stayed in, in real estate or had to leave and find another job because it was just,
it was ugly.
Yeah. And so that's what I did, transitioned over to short sales. And there was a lot of short sales at that time.
Oh,
so then travel back and forth. In fact, I had, even with short sales, it was hard, right? I had 3 jobs at the time. I was a single mom, and so I had to get a paycheck, every 2 weeks to
put
to
food
keep
on the table
going. Exactly. But I did concentrate on short sales and saw that opportunity. And so then started learning the whole process of, how to deal with the banks, how to process them.
Right.
And like I said, naturally that just took me over to investing because then I was surrounded by a lot of investors.
Right. You were hanging around with investors, right?
May have had cash, I could find the deal, close the deal, and then, sell them to people that were, that were ready to close on them, had the cash at that time, and not a lot of people. So, had cash at that time. Everybody was, in big trouble. And so, that's really what took me to the investment side of real estate versus the traditional side.
So what was the first property you ever bought as an investment?
I bought one in Kearns. I remember back in Kearns, there was one for, gosh, you could pick them up for $60,000 to $80,000.
Right.
Back in the day. So my first was actually a wholesale deal. I would wholesale it, right? I did the deal. I didn't want to take it down to flip it. I didn't know the ins and outs of flipping. That all entailed how to get the money. So I then started wholesaling it to, investors that did that flipped, that could get money, that had either access to hard money or, their own cash. And so
the whole remodel, that's another beast.
A lot of people think there's a lot of money in that. You have to really know what you're doing, have your numbers.
You can make a lot of money or you can lose a lot of money quickly.
You got to execute a plan. You have to make sure you have your contractors in place, good ones. What you're buying it for, how much your rehab costs, what you're going to sell it for. There's a lot to to learn when it comes to flipping. You can make good money, but at the same time, you can lose a lot of money too.
Yep, quickly.
Yes, and quick. Yeah. And so that was my first, introduction, is basically wholesaling these deals.
Right.
And after, just again, surrounding myself with these people, then I started, flipping myself and knowing what those numbers were, what the ARV, what we call after repair value was, how much rehab each one needed, and how long I was going to hold it. So then, I want to say about 15 years now, I've been actually flipping myself, and I do some traditional real estate, people that know me that refer, buyers and sellers, just from being in the business for so long. But
because you're a principal broker, right?
Yes.
Yeah. How long have you been a broker?
10 years now.
Oh, you've been a broker 10 years. Wow.
10 years. Yeah, a long time. Yeah. Time flies. And again, I was doing a lot of deals, and so I thought I could get my, my broker license, and can keep maybe some of that transaction money, but for myself. So doing that, yeah.
So do you have other agents too, or you just work by yourself?
I do. I have about 4 agents.
Oh, okay.
That are under my brokerage. More veteran agents. Agents that have been in the business a long time, because I don't do any training, right? I mean, just people that have, whether referrals or people that I've known for a really long time. And it's
somebody just looking for a place to do some deals and not, I get it.
Yeah, just a transaction fee, check their paperwork, make sure everything's aligned. But a lot of them know what they're doing, right? And they don't need that support when you first start out, work and class.
Oh no, I had that brokerage where an agent, sometimes she goes, "Oh, I got a friend that wants to join the firm." I'm like, "Great." So she joins. So she calls me up and says, "My brother wants to make an offer on a house." I said, "Great. All we got to do is get a repsy." She says, "Where do you get a repsy?" I'm like, "Oh, this is going to be a long night."
Yeah. So I do have 4 agents, and
So, but obviously, you're making your money on your business.
Oh yeah,
You're a producing broker.
Yep, exactly. Yeah.
So you started doing some wholesale, then you started doing some flipping. So when did you actually get into buying holds?
I want to say around 2011, 2012.
Okay.
So I sold a townhouse I had, and with the equity, I would just buy, not flips, but buy residential holds. So then I started getting into buying some properties here. Again, investing naturally took me to investing in non-performing notes, mortgage notes.
Got it.
So with that equity from that townhouse, I bought quite a bit of, defaulted notes at pennies on the dollar.
Right.
And so, I invested all my money into that. And so, I was buying, not here in Utah, but in different states, Michigan, Indiana, different places. And so I would just buy them and
explain that a little bit. I know how it works, but explain that. So, just a quick 1, 2, 3 Reader's Digest version.
Yeah, basically people, that default on their mortgage notes. And the bank wants to sell those off. Investors like me, many investors buy those notes. And now you basically become the bank. So,
and then you finish the foreclosure, or at least collect.
Well, if you can do a workout with them, then they continue to
make payments.
Make payments. And if not, then yes, you proceed with a foreclosure, just like any bank would.
So if you buy it, if you buy it cheap enough and say, "Look, you're 6 months behind. I don't care. Let's just wipe the slate clean, start making payments today, and you won't be behind anymore."
Yeah, or you can do a modification, right? I'll modify your loan, and keep making payments. If they don't, then you proceed to
then you foreclose and take the property, right?
So I would foreclose on them, and then I've kept a lot of those properties. If some I still have notes where they're still paying, and some I foreclosed and just kept them as rentals. Some I foreclosed and sold. So that, I did that as well, outside of short sales, flipping, wholesaling. So the non-performing, which was great back in 2012.
Yeah, there were still a lot of those around.
There was so many. Yeah, you could really get a lot of deals.
Yeah, and the banks were done. They're like, "We want these off our books," because the market crashed in 2008. By 2011 and 12, they're like, "We're ready to get these off our books."
Yeah, and that was the bottom of the market. I feel like 11 and 12.
Yeah.
And so I would just yeah, I bought a lot of those, just invested all the money I had on that townhouse I sold.
Right. Good for
Yeah.
you.
So yeah, I mean, it's, again, you just have to, there was a little bit of fear in that, right? That's another type
Sure.
of investing that people, don't usually get into, but yeah, you just have to,
Yeah,
I
there's
just,
not a big peer group for that, you know?
yeah, exactly. It's just like, I mean, because at that time I didn't know where my next paycheck was coming, but I didn't hold on to that money, right? I thought, well,
Right.
let me see, and I invested it, and I mean, that money, I made a lot of money off of those.
Right.
So, and,
Okay.
and like I said, I still have them in those states. It's a lot of more of a cash flow versus appreciation.
Right.
Utah is more appreciation.
Right. Appreciation
It's
market.
more
Right.
cash flow. I mean, yeah. And so that's, at the end of the day, that's my goal, right? Is to just passive income.
Right.
Oh, yeah.
So how did you graduate from there to multifamily? I mean, was there any steps between those?
No, I think after so many flips, after so many wholesaling, I think you naturally, I don't know, but
Start looking for bigger deals.
start looking for bigger deals, right? So as of, maybe 4 or 5 years ago, started, researching, doing, learning about multifamily.
Right.
And so then that's what I went. I looked for mentors,
Right.
listen to stuff on YouTube. And then I just wanted to graduate, I guess, from the residential to commercial.
Right.
So that's when I did, multi. Instead of buying one, you
Want
buy
to buy
I'm
50.
talking, yeah, and I'm not talking multifamily as in duplex, fourplex, triplex.
Right.
I'm talking about apartments, 100
Right.
plus units, more of
So
your
how many are you involved? How many projects do you currently hold or part of holding? If you don't mind my asking.
over 500 doors.
So you're involved in over 500 doors.
Some are syndications, that I'm the general partner. Some are, I hold, with another partner, just 50-50, another business partner of mine.
Right.
Some are my own. So not everything is syndication. Some are
Right.
I don't have any investors.
Privately held. Right.
Yeah.
So syndication that's where you raise money from multiple people and they become limited partners, right? And then you're the general partner. So you and maybe somebody else are general partners where you're on the hook for everything, where the limited partner is only on the hook for their money.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. We get the loan. We
You
source
rate,
the
right,
deal, we get the loan, we raise the money. We're essentially the operators of that deal.
right. So
Every cent.
basically you raise the down payment, get a loan.
Yeah,
And
some of the
then,
down payment, some of the CapEx, what we call,
right.
the rehab.
What does CapEx mean?
It's just capital expenditures. It's just,
Okay. Got it.
it's just like the rehab of that.
Right.
So,
Yeah. I mean, I understand the terms, but
yeah.
not everybody would listening.
Yeah.
You know?
So yeah. So then I transitioned over to the multifamily space. Still doing, I mean, still actively flip home. They still actively wholesale.
Right.
Multifamily right now has kind of slowed down, of course, because of debt. The amount
Right.
of times the Fed has raised the interest rates.
Right.
It's just deals don't pencil, right? And so
No.
so it's kind of at a standstill. I think there's going to be some good opportunity, but right now you have to just really, know what you're buying.
Right.
Before, with the COVID, you could raise rents. I mean,
Right.
and it was just crazy, just like it was in your regular residential.
Yeah.
But
The income is still there. It's just the cost of money
yes,
so high.
cost of money is so high. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. So
So
yeah.
walk us through a project. Let's say, you know, let's just do simple numbers. You have a hundred unit complex you're looking to buy. So kind of walk us through it. What does that look like?
Well, it just
I mean, it's
depends.
not like they pull your credit and give you a loan.
No.
Right.
When it's commercial, they go off of the income that the
Right.
property is bringing. It's not, it's not like residential where they're
You
going
qualify.
off of an appraisal, or they're looking at comps of other
Right.
houses, similar
And
square footage, and that's
right.
your value. Your value is your net operating income. What
Right.
your net is, and that's that's
And
what your
mortgage, we call that DSCR, which stands for debt service credit ratio. They're not qualifying you, they're qualifying the property.
They're qualifying the property. I mean, they are qualifying. It's mostly property, but yeah, obviously
they're qualifying you for your experience in property management
and credit and your
operations, right?
Yeah. So, I mean, but you have to do a lot of due diligence. You got to make sure you're, what the rents are going for, those type of comps. Comping what the
competition is
in the area, what they're renting for.
Right.
Does it need rehab? What we call value add? Does it, there's a lot of things. The area, are people moving in? What jobs are coming in?
Right.
Your tenant base. There's just a lot of pretty much due diligence you have to do.
Right. It's just a due diligence with a different animal.
With a different animal. Instead of one, you're go and do 100. And not
well,
just
you're still figuring out the rent, what's
Yeah.
the viability of collecting rent?
Exactly. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And what it came from, for example, whoever held it before,
Right.
How they ran it, what their books were like, what their tenant base, did they do a good job property managing it? I mean, all those things come into place when
Right.
it comes multifamily.
So right now, probably not a lot of those are selling. I would think that not as much as they could have, right? And that's because of the cost of money.
Yeah,
so does that mean? Yeah. So does that mean when the cost of money goes down, that a bunch of opportunities might happen,
yes.
or you're going to have a flood of buyers running after those same opportunities? So I mean, it might be both.
When it goes up, it's the same thing, right?
Right.
I mean, there's going to be opportunity to buy. There's a lot of, these syndications that may have, not had the money raised for the CapEx for the rehab. They didn't execute that plan. They have vacancies. So then, I mean, they're going to be in trouble, right? There's going to be a lot of that opportunity coming up. People that, got maybe on a bridge loan. That's just, it's not a permanent loan. It's just
right.
to get to a permanent loan, and they didn't execute the plan at that point. So now the rates are at 6-7%. I mean, they won't even be able to cover their debt service. So a lot of those may be coming back, or will be coming back to,
right.
Back to the banks.
So you look for properties that are underperforming. Is that what you're looking for?
Yeah, underperforming. That's how I first started. Your Class C, what you call value add.
Right.
A lot of work with that, right? I mean, you have to sometimes turn the tenant base, rehab them. But now, as of, probably the last couple of years, it was more your Class B, where there wasn't as much work. I would,
right.
Basically just, that maybe somebody else rehabbed it, and it's just basically it's performing.
Right.
Yeah.
So what is so let's say you have 100 units, and what is a rehab project? How does that work? I mean, you can't just like empty the complex out and rehab 100 units, right?
Well, like I said, there's a process, right?
Right.
You want so many vacants to be able to rehab a certain amount, because you don't want to get your occupancy very low. So there's a method, right?
Right.
Any tenants out while you're rehabbing it, or people that, they're not leasing anymore, those units come available, then you rehab those. And that's, because the key is, right, to have occupancy, to have that cash flow.
Right.
I mean, there are projects where, you could empty out the whole thing, and if you have the money to rehab thing, that's also, so there's so many different ways, as that you could do any of these deals.
Right.
I mean, there's places you can empty the whole place out. There's some that you have to have, your tenants in there, only, empty a percentage out.
Right.
So there's a lot of ways to structure.
You empty out a place. I think the lender might have some heartburn over that.
Yeah, exactly. Well,
it's the age-old saying. I always say, "What do you want? How much you got?"
And if you have investors, right, you want to make sure and be able to pay distributions, and that along comes with occupancy and all those things that can provide you that cash flow while you're doing these projects. So there's a lot to know when it comes to multifamily, and what you have to look for,
right?
Who you're partnering up with, make sure you have the same goals, you're on the same page.
I would imagine due diligence is a real art.
Yeah, you have to go in, look at every unit, what it needs, I don't know, your boiler system, your AC, all those things, roof, because
Right.
now it's these things are very costly. And
Right. If you need a
they're
new
not
roof
much
on a
money.
100-unit project, yeah.
So all these things have to be, included in your underwriting,
Right.
when you're underwriting a property to be able to see, okay, does this make sense? Your
Right.
insurance costs. Insurance costs has gone up for a lot of these properties, which sometimes kill a deal. So
Right.
there's a lot that goes into, you want to make sure you go to a state where people are moving in, not moving out.
Right.
So yeah, there's definitely a lot of due diligence that you're doing.
Right.
Find these deals, and also you have to have relationships with brokers,
Right.
brokers. These are people that are bringing you the deal. It's harder to find. You can find off market, sure, but
Right.
a lot of these commercial brokers are the ones that are bringing you the deal. So they'll, working on
Right.
these relationships, and
Yeah. So that way, yeah, because now you're talking about, it's one thing if you're here in Salt Lake County, you can have a list of every
your brokers,
multi-unit. Yeah. I mean, you can have a list of every multi-unit if you want it and have the owners, but when you're working nationwide. So I was talking to one guy about that one time, and he was saying that, because I mentioned Florida, and what he said was, he says he'd rather stay away from states with no income tax. And I was like, well, that's interesting, because when you have no income tax, usually property taxes are higher,
yeah, they're a lot higher, yeah.
so, and I was like, well, that makes sense, you know, so I guess,
No, like
it all,
I bought in Michigan. In
right,
Michigan, I mean, their income tax for a little small little house that cost me, maybe, let's just say back in the day, $10,000 a say. I mean, it's the same property taxes I pay in my house here,
right,
So, yeah, you can get them cheaper, but yeah, the property taxes are
right.
just
Well,
a lot
Jersey's the same
higher.
way. Yeah,
Yeah,
Jersey, you can be paying $1,000 a month in property tax for
yeah.
just a modest house.
Yeah. So a
That's
lot of those,
crazy.
yeah, it's crazy. Yeah. And they have a lot of things. And when you buy in other states, you have to just make sure, again, it's all part of the due diligence. Like if it's
Right,
residential, they have a lot of point of sale inspections that they don't have here. For example, I have rentals here. I don't have the city, inspecting
right,
my property before I put in another tenant. Well, in Michigan and Indiana, they do. They every
right,
2 years they do a point of sale inspection, and you're fixing everything. The city comes in, you have to pay a fee to the city. They come in, they inspect everything as if it was like an FHA per se.
right,
And so you get a list of what you need to fix in order for you to reinstate, whether your tenant is leaving or not, that point of sale inspection.
right.
Same thing when you're selling. There's a point of sale inspection, there that the city. So every state has its different, right,
Nuances, right? That's one of the things I like about Utah. Utah's a little more laissez-faire,
Yes. There,
you
it's
know,
a great state to invest
be a
in.
landlord, right?
Here, though, are expensive. I mean,
Right.
multi-family here,
Prices are expensive, but
so
governmental, it's a good state to be an investor.
yeah. So yeah, that's again, I've done different type of investing. I, have a development here, 33 unit in West Jordan.
Okay.
It's on their way, and I just bought a property, and I'm doing a restaurant. So
Oh yeah,
I
I forgot about that. I
have
saw
a
one of the
restaurant.
videos on. I saw a video somewhere. Well, I
Yeah.
have to come down, but I won't eat any carbs.
Yeah. Well, there must be some, some
Meatballs.
steak.
Yeah,
Yeah. Some protein. Yeah. So I
yeah.
think when you start investing, you start, diversifying, and then I did the restaurant because I did have the real estate. I did buy the real estate. And so I
Right.
was just but I go to different states and I just see that we go out to eat all the time, and we need, I think we're underserved here in Utah. A lot of restaurants are coming in, but I think we still need.
Well, there are a lot of franchise type restaurants, like you see out in some of these big developments. They got these strip malls, and like the one down there by the old gravel pit in Sandy. It's got like every franchise restaurant under the sun in there.
Yeah, right. There's a lot of franchise, and so
I try to visit small ma pa owner type places.
yeah, so
Like Indian,
good food, yeah, different, yeah.
yeah, Indian and Thai or Muslim, Chinese. Just it's hard to find what I call a good old fashioned American food restaurant that's not a franchise.
Mhm.
And I think the reason is restaurants are hard work.
It is. It's a
You
lot of
know,
work.
I mean, especially if you're open for 3 meals. If you're open for 3 meals, you literally live there,
Yeah.
So, that's why most American restaurants were breakfast and lunch.
Yeah.
They got up at 4 o'clock in the morning, they were home by 1 o'clock, they banged it out. But then, if you do lunch and dinner, I mean, you're going in at 11, getting home at 10 o'clock at night.
Yeah. Yeah. Whoever's operating that, yeah, the restaurant for sure. It's
That's
profit margins aren't as,
no,
they're,
you got
yeah,
to, you
a
got to
lot
move a lot of
tighter
food.
than yes, a lot of food and know who's running it. It's like anything. It's like any business. It's
Right.
people think that they come into real estate, that it's, that they're going to make all this money.
Oh
Well,
yeah. I'm going to
it's
buy a
not the
building,
way.
stick the deed in a drawer and make a fortune.
Yeah, no, it's a lot of work, even whether you're a traditional agent, every day finding those leads, working your SOI, if
Right.
it's multifamily, raising money, sourcing a deal, if it's a
Right.
restaurant, it's, I think that anything that's gonna make you a lot of money, it's just a lot of work, right? And a lot of learning.
Right.
Um,
I always
yeah,
say, I heard Mike Ferry said it. He says it's a simple business, but it's hard work.
yeah, it's hard work,
Yeah.
yeah.
I mean, simple, when he's qualifying simple, meaning your number one job is to figure out who's moving.
Yeah.
That's it. Find out who's moving and get involved.
Yeah.
But that's the hard part, and to me, that's where the sale ends, right? Because once you sign a contract, that's the sale. In other words, the rest at that point is just client service.
Mhm.
And you can hire staff to do most of that.
Right.
People don't realize, they're like, no, they got to talk to me. I'm like, no, they don't.
No, they don't.
They don't want it's people say, well, they only want me. No, they want the quality of service you offer.
You have to have process systems in place, as we know,
Right.
we get told that, we all the time, but actually implementing, right? A lot of people, I think that's where they don't,
Right.
they don't, when
Well, a
they
lot
don't,
of them don't want to hire anybody. They're like, no, I'll do it.
I think it's sometimes the control. And I think as entrepreneurs, right, and as we all have that, I want to do everything, I want to know, but you have to let go, right? Do what you're good at.
Right.
And
hire the rest.
And hire the rest. And then it just, yeah, it's much easier, less stress.
Right.
Because real estate is stressful. There's always something happening, and there's always some,
something broke.
Yeah. Yeah.
Somebody had a fight and the police were called, it's like, whatever.
Yeah, and recently in one of our Tucson properties, the boiler broke. They had no AC, and there's 115 for the past.
Yeah.
So then what do we have to do? Go buy ACs, portable ACs. It was just half of the compressor went out, so you had to buy ACs for those people. Then you get complaining. Then I mean, again, it's not.
Yeah, Tucson air conditioning. You're not going to say, well, we'll get to it next week. It's like, nuh-uh.
Yeah, you're like, you better, yeah. If not, people will leave, or you have to pay for accommodation somewhere else, or they can break out of the lease. I mean, there's just a lot of things, right? So it's definitely, not easy, but it's something. Yeah.
No, it's just another day at the office. I mean, as long as you don't stress out over it and just every day make your best decision, you'll be okay.
Yeah.
But you had mentioned, said the entrepreneur, and so where agents don't want to let go, reminding me of Robert Kiyosaki. I think it was his second book called Cash Flow Quadrant.
Yeah.
And so Cash Flow Quadrant was ESBI, right? So employee on the top left, self-employed on the bottom left, top right was B, business owner, bottom right was investor. And so he had like a statement for each one. So an employee was, I want a steady job, steady paycheck.
Yeah.
And so a self-employed, and I think more realtors are self-employed mindset than entrepreneur mindsets. Now, because a self-employed says, I can't find anybody to do it as good as me, so I might as well do it myself. That's the self-employed. So then when they cross over, so the biggest crossover is going from S to B, because a business owner, like someone like me, that says, well, why do that when you can find somebody else to do it?
Yeah.
Which is like the complete opposite of S.
Yeah.
S says, I can't find anybody to do it, I'll do it myself. And I'm like, geez, I don't want to do any of that, And so, so I think there's more self-employed, that now the business owner is the entrepreneur is usually the broker that hires all these S's.
Yeah.
Because most agents don't really run a business, they own a job.
Oh yeah, for sure. Yeah. They have to get their next buyer, their next seller.
Right.
I get a lot of people, I've met with people in the business that are still doing maybe some of your traditional. They ask me, oh, you doing investments. And again, it's that they don't like to lose that control. So when I ask, what's your goal with investing? Well, in their mind, they're thinking, oh, well, I want to buy a duplex or a triplex multifamily.
Right.
So they think of it more, they want to own it, they want to run it, and so
right.
instead of maybe, and they can do that, that's fine, but maybe put a little bit of money in having somebody else run it, an operator, and that's,
right.
sometimes
that's what you are.
money comes in, yeah.
And so really, that's what you are, an operator, right?
Yeah, an operator. Yeah. So, and I've invested a lot of private money,
Sure.
I've millions of dollars of private money that I've put into my deals, whether it's short-term, long-term.
Right.
In real estate. So I've done a lot of that. And I think when you let go of the control, I want to say about 5 years ago, we had a friend here that's a, developer, owns a lot of multifamily. I hadn't got into that multifamily space yet, and was going to do a 30 unit in the avenues. And so needed some money, and reached out to about 3 investors. I was one of them, and said, hey, this is I need X amount. I think it was $1 million, for the rehab, to get it rehab so then he can get a loan. Well, at that point, I think there was 3 of us, 3 or 4, we each invested $250,000, just passively. So he was paying a 12% return monthly.
Right.
And so at that point, I thought about it, and I thought, well, I could take this 250, buy a flip, and make that much more profit because I don't have to get hard money, right?
Right.
But sometimes you just have to, okay, well, I want to get into the multifamily space, right? Let me invest this money, see how it works on a passive, let him do all the work, and I just get mailbox money.
Right.
And that's exactly what I did, right? $250,000, 2 years, I got 12%. I would get a $2,500, paycheck every month in my mailbox. I'd go.
Right. That's 30 grand a year.
I was like, this is a no-brainer. I want to do this all day long.
Right. That's 30 grand a year, plus your money's still sitting there.
Yeah. And even in multifamily, you can get depreciation. And as agents and full-time real estate, we can offset our taxes.
Right. Big time.
Which is just, that alone is more exciting than a distribution, right? To be able to have to write this check out to the IRS from the depreciation.
Right.
So I just think a lot of people have that control mindset. They're not willing to let go of the control. They rather be, oh, well, I'll just buy a 250,000. Well, that's an active income. You're there. If it's a flip, you're having to.
Right. Well, you're working.
Flip.
Right.
If it's a duplex, you're having to deal with your tenants. Let's say, you're still either, whether it's, turnkey or not, you're having to, it's active. Where, and of course, you have to do diligence. You have to do your due diligence on the operator. What have they done before? It's like anything, right?
Right.
But I think a lot of.
Right. Do you trust them? Do they have a track record? All that.
Yeah. So they have a track record. Do they know what they're doing? I knew this person. I knew his track record. And but that was the best $250,000 I could have invested, right? And again, it was passively. And a lot of people, I just don't think do that, right? They want to control, and so yeah, that was kind of my first, like I said, when I was transitioning over to multifamily.
Right, foray into multifamily, yeah.
So, and I've invested a lot of private money with, my flips, short term.
Right.
Months, I'll give you a return. It could be rehab money, it could be the whole thing. There's a lot of money that's just sitting there. That could be, if you put it with the right operator, you can make some money and not have to do the work, right? You're just relying on this operator to, to execute a plan. So, so yeah, that was about 5 years ago, and ever since then, I've just transitioned over. So
you mentioned you had a property on the west side, but then you mentioned Tucson. So where else do you have properties?
I have Alabama, Auburn, Alabama, Alabaster. Alabaster is about 20 minutes from Birmingham.
Okay.
Arizona, Tucson, here. So I have Michigan, Indiana.
Right.
So, yeah.
You're just a a jet setter, huh? So do
Yeah.
you have your own private jet yet or no?
Oh no.
No, I'm kidding.
No,
Just teasing.
I do visit the properties. I go to Arizona every month, once a month. Make sure you still have
Right.
to be,
Oh, you got
you
to
know,
walk the properties.
yeah, you gotta, I mean, you have a property manager at the property, but you still have to
Right.
ask that property, that manager, make sure that you're doing things right, looking at the financials every month,
Right.
like making sure and
Oh
everything.
yeah, you got to monitor. You got to count. You got to make sure the
All
money's
the time.
flowing properly.
Yeah.
So
So,
I remember years ago, I looked, because as a broker, when I had my brokerage, I, my mind went into the property management. Is it a viable business? It can be. And so, one of the things I thought of when, I was thinking about how would I do property management, I thought about, the 1-800 system. Remember we used to have the 1-800 numbers and you had like 1,000 extensions, right? Well, I thought if property management, you could own one of those 1-800 numbers and assign an extension to every unit so that every tenant say, look, this is your personal number. When you call this number, you leave a message. We know exactly who it is. We know exactly where the message is. And I just thought of that. I said, that's probably not a bad idea,
yeah.
because my thoughts were, and I would educate owners that I would send a postcard every month to the tenant just to say, hey, look, how's it going? If there's any problems, call this number, and then, go collect your money. Now it's all done online, and then go by on the first of the month and collect your money. Because that way you saw them, you touched them twice a month. And that kind of gave the feel that you're watching them,
Yeah. That
because
you care.
tenants, I mean, if you don't watch them, they'll take full advantage of it,
Yeah, for sure. And they want to make sure that, their issues or their complaints get addressed if they come
Right.
in, in order to have something repaired.
Right.
Top of it, all that, goes a long way, that they know that as the management or as the owner that you're looking out for their best interest. It's not just all about money.
Right. Well, you have to take care of the property. I mean, number one, it's your asset, it's your
Right.
collateral. And I always say, tenants that don't pay rent and landlords that don't take care of the property, they deserve each other. you know, they really do, So, so people have, so in other words, if somebody, maybe say, hey, I really want to get involved in like multifamily investing. So, I mean, they could just call you up and they can actually just invest money with you. Is that correct?
Yeah. Yeah. They can invest money. Yeah.
And they'll
Um,
make mailbox money.
they'll make mailbox money. Yes.
Yeah. That's not a bad gig, huh?
And it could be, again, short term. There's a lot of
Right.
different opportunities.
Define short term.
Short term could be 4 to 6 months. It could be on a flip I'm doing.
Right.
It could be, long
So
term would be a multifamily. Typically, those holds are, typically it's a 5-year hold, anywhere 2 to 5 years, depending,
the size and the rehab and all that.
Yes, every deal is different. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because if you had 100 units that you really, was underperforming, needed to be rehabbed, to change, because as you rehab them, you're changing your socioeconomic level of your tenant. But in the beginning, obviously in the beginning, if you rehab 5 units, you're not changing the complexion yet. So I would imagine it isn't until you cross over to 50 or 60 rehabs that you can really start increasing rents at a
Right.
higher level and change the rent style of the tenants, your socioeconomic level of your tenant.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, you turn your tenant base, get a better paying tenant,
Right.
you
Higher rent, better paying. And
higher
that's
rent.
it. And that's a few years. I mean, you don't just do
Oh
that
yeah,
overnight.
that takes, it's a process, it's a
Right.
plan. Then you execute that plan, you make sure whether you raise the money or have the money to, I mean, to rehab, a lot of that costs money, obviously. And so
Right.
you just have to execute the plan basically.
Right.
And sure, have a pro forma, make sure that, that you're hitting all those goals that you set from the very beginning.
Right. So like when you borrow so if you're borrowing rehab, do you take it all at once or do you get like a line of credit? Because if you're only, yeah, like if say you're rehabbing 5 units at a time, and you have 100 units, do you take, and let's say you need,
you take the whole amount up front,
do you?
before you close. If it's multifamily, yes.
Right.
You raise all of the money up front and
I
then,
see.
you allocate it to wherever, because it's not just necessarily the units, it could be the exterior, it could be paint, it could be landscaping.
Right. It could be anything, right?
It
Yeah.
could be grounds. I mean, there's,
Yeah, you got an acre and a half of sprinklers to run. That's a lot of money.
So you take the whole thing up front, and
Got it.
then that's when you have that plan in place.
Sure.
So
This is cool stuff, man.
yeah, it is.
So,
It's exciting. It's different than your regular traditional stuff, but
right,
all the realm of investing, and
right.
there's million and one ways you can invest in real estate, right?
So if people are giving you money, they're limited partners, so they don't have ownership in the property, correct?
They don't have ownership. No, they're just
Okay.
a limited partner.
What if somebody wanted to do a 1031? Is that possible?
Yep, you can do a 1031 exchange. Yeah, it's
So
called,
then
yeah.
they would have then they, at that point, they would have some kind of ownership.
They would have ownership. You would have to have ownership when it's a 1031.
So
Yes.
does that make them a general partner, or is that just a limited partner with ownership?
Yes, you're just limited with ownership. That
Right.
doesn't make
So limited means they don't have any say.
right. They don't have any say in the day-to-day operations
Right.
or
Which theoretically they shouldn't want it.
yeah. I mean that's
I mean, that's the whole purpose of giving you money
yeah.
is to get
You just
that's
rely on your operator that knows what they're doing. To
right.
yeah. So
Yeah, if you
but
don't like it, go to the bank. They'll give you 4.5.
yeah. Sorry, my dog's over here. I'm at barking. My daughter's coming home.
Oh,
Like
because
she's
like banks are paying pretty good compared to what they always paid.
oh yeah.
Because the Fed kept raising the rate, which meant now credit cards are at like 19. So the bank is bank will be glad to give you 5 because they're loaning it out at 19.
yes.
So they're like, yeah, we'll give you
Yeah, exactly.
5%.
Yeah, we'll give you 5. Exactly. There's 19 or more. I mean, right now,
Right.
23, 24 credit cards.
Yeah,
Yeah.
even HELOCs are 10.
Yep. HELOCs are, yeah.
I mean, they got
10%.
the teaser rate, 6.99, and that
Yeah.
lasts 6 months and then boom. You're like, whoa, what the hell happened?
Right before, I think there was a rate, I think with America First, you could get 5% for like 5 years. This was when they first raising rates. And I think
Right.
now you can't get that.
Yeah, they're like 6 month
One for
teasers.
6 months. Yeah.
Yeah.
And
Yeah. The one I got is 4.5%, but the money's liquid though. It's a money market account.
yeah.
I mean, it's not even like a 1 year term or anything. It's just boom, that money's
Yeah.
sitting there. I
Yeah.
mean, I can write a check on it anytime I want.
Yeah. So yeah, there's different ways to invest passively. Yeah, that I can place their money. Yeah, or even if they just want to, any questions, if they want to learn,
Yeah. How would somebody get a hold of you?
So you can email me. It's waleska.iglesias@gmail. It's my email.
Okay.
My cell phone, 801-703-8888.
Okay. Say that. Say that again. Say that again in a slower way.
801-703-8888.
Got it. Okay.
Yeah.
Somebody was trying to write it down.
Yeah, or with any questions, yeah. I would
And of
love
course, you're in the MLS, you're an agent. So if you're an
Uh-huh.
agent and you're part of the Utah MLS, then you can always find it. Or just get a hold of me, guys and gals. I'd be more than happy to put you in touch with them.
Yeah, I'd be more than happy to, even if you don't invest, any questions and any topic. Yeah. I've been doing this for a long time, so I've,
It's the way I am. I don't care. Just call me if you got a
yeah,
question.
just call me if you need, or if you want to, if you're looking at a deal and need help, looking
Right.
at some due diligence. Yeah. And ask
Perfect.
questions you might have. Yeah.
Well, that's awesome, man. This was some really cool stuff.
Yeah.
I mean, I have a whole myriad of guests. Like I had the meth mob. So we talked about meth houses. I had a home inspector. I've been talking to like mega producing agents and whatnot. Just all kinds of different things. I had a multi-unit developer about a month ago. He puts the money and buys the ground and goes vertical with it.
Yeah.
So that's a different beast than what you're doing. And I just had home, like I said, a home inspector. I've had everybody, home stager, an appraiser. So now multi-unit investor versus a multi-unit developer. I mean, I've had the guy from, what was his name, Jaron Davis. He's a executive officer at the Salt Lake Home Builders Association.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Just we talk about whatever, it's all real estate related.
Yeah.
I mean, that's the topic. So in the old blogging days, we used to call it linear. So linear blogging was kind of like more of your Facebook profile. Today, boom, today I went there, I took a picture, and then the day before I went here and took a picture. So that's linear, whatever happened that day. And where circular is you take a topic and you write around it all the time.
Yeah.
So this is what they call a circular podcast where, like Joe Rogan is linear. I mean, he has, a different,
Everybody on there, yeah.
yeah, I mean, from a sleep doctor, to, what else,
Everything.
so, but anyway, not that I have anywhere near his numbers, So I
Yeah.
think he has like 11 million listeners,
Yeah, 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 very interesting though. I like Joe Rogan, listening to his thing, to his podcast and
Yeah. Yeah. I don't listen to them a lot. I mean,
politics.
because they're long, 3 hours,
Yeah,
So I'll listen to one it takes me a few days to listen to one.
yeah. 1 hour a day, yeah.
Yeah. He's a pretty powerful guy. I mean, I remember there was a few major rock stars. We're taking our music down, and like, so, we're not, we're not taking him down,
Yeah.
morons. So,
Oh, bro, you're
so
funny.
anyway, well, listen, hey, thanks for coming. This was
Yes, Rob, I
awesome.
appreciate you. You are the best. You are one that I've always, always there to help. Whenever I've called you, needed you, you're
Right.
always in my years of real estate, Hey, Rob, the broker, let's see,
Right.
what do you think of this? Yeah, I so appreciate you and yeah, do
Oh, and I
anything
appreciate
for you.
appreciate you coming on, and
Yeah.
talking to our audience and, making me smarter too, And that's the cool part about this podcast. I usually talk about that. I mean, you and I have known each other, but a lot of my guests I don't know that well, and I get to hang out with them for a while.
Yeah, for
And
sure.
so that's actually like a side benefit. When I was planning out this whole podcast process and program, where I got to have something every week and blah, 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 blah. And the idea that I'm going to hang around with cool people all the time, like that even, I was like, wow, I started noticing that after a while. I'm like, because the very few, for very beginning were people I just knew, now I'm getting people that, I mean, I know you, people I know of,
Yeah,
or they may know of me, but, but you're still one from the old gang,
from the old
Yeah.
days back in the office and yeah.
Back when I was younger and thinner, right? Now, so I used to say I was getting older and wiser. Now I'm getting older and wider. So,
We all are.
so, well,
Yeah.
so thanks everybody, and thanks for joining in. Our
Yes.
special guest, Waleska Iglesias, and again, I'm your host, Rob Aubrey. This is the Productive Agent Podcast, sponsored and funded and managed by Aubrey Home Loans. So, any questions, just reach out to us. Thanks, folks.
Thanks. See you guys.